If you're just joining us, we're covering breaking news out of Washington, D.C., where an American Airlines passenger jet crashed midair with a Black Hawk helicopter. The two aircraft plunging into the Potomac River. American Eagle Flight 5342, which was coming from Wichita, Kansas, was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board. The Black Hawk helicopter had 3 on board, and right now a massive search and rescue operation is underway in the frigid waters of the Potomac. Up to 19 bodies have been removed so far, and we're awaiting a news conference at 7:30 Eastern Time on this. Joining us now, NBC News aviation analyst John Cox. He's a former pilot and accident investigator with more than 20 years' experience. And John, I'm curious what first comes to mind when you saw the video, heard the audio about what happened here.
I think it's important to recognize that this was a very routine operation. This change of a runway to have the RJ land on runway 33, it's routinely done. Pilots know how to handle that. Everything that we can see, the jet tracked exactly where they should have been. Air traffic control asked the military helicopter do they see the RJ and to pass behind it. And from this point, we don't know a whole lot. This is what NTSB investigators are going to be looking at, was the ground track of the Black Hawk helicopter, where they were, and how this mid-air collision could have occurred. There should have been vertical separation between the two aircraft.
Vertical separation, and also any collision avoidance systems that you would know these aircraft to have.
You may be able to see it. They'll have to determine if the Black Hawk had the terminal collision avoidance system known as TCAS on board, and it also TCAS is inhibited below a given altitude, so it may not have actually been functioning because of the low altitude of the jet.
John,
yeah, John, walk us through just for the layman, the people who fly in day out of these airports, just the choreography, the intense and delicate choreography needed by air traffic control to land all of these airplanes safely, and then also factor in other aircraft, whether it's civilian or military, helicopters, small planes in the area. Just talk to us about how complicated that is.
Reagan National Airport is a complex airport to land at, and it's one I always enjoy flying in and out of there. The quality of the controllers is very high. They move a lot of airplanes in and out of a pretty compact area. You have the river to work with, and they will clear you, follow the river up if you're landing to the north, typically on runway 1. And it's very often that they'll say, okay, can you circle to land runway 33? That is also very routine. And then you oftentimes see helicopters below you coming southbound from further up in the district. So everything that's the setup here was totally routine. The air traffic control transmissions, they're all routine. So it's the last few seconds where something goes horribly wrong, and that's what the investigators are going to be looking at.
John, good morning. Given everything you know so well about aviation and understand about air traffic control and about this airport itself, what are your instincts telling you? We don't want to speculate what happened here, but equipment failure, pilot error, what all is in the mix here as you assess what happened?
Willie, it's early, and we've got a lot more questions than we have answers. It appears from the radar tracks that I've seen that the jet is on a completely normal profile. So that leaves question about, was the military helicopter too far west? Were they at the right altitude? Those are questions that are unanswered at this point. So, and the investigators are going to have to look at this very carefully, and they're going to dissect every second that led up to this collision. But right now, as to speculate on possible cause, it's too early.
As you look at what happened here, I think to the layman, again, watching, wondering, is it normal, is it typical for military aircraft to cross and fly through a flight pattern of a commercial airplane that's landing at a heavily traveled airport. Did that look unusual to you at all, or is that just the nature of Washington and that airport?
A little bit of both. It is routine to have helicopters below you as you approach, particularly on that circle to land or runway 33. But they're typically on the east side of the east bank of the river. And I'm at this point still unclear exactly where that helicopter was tracking. I've seen countless numbers of helicopters, but they've typically been on that eastern bank of the Potomac River, and that gives you the separation. So there's a lot of question that could the RJ crew have even seen the helicopter? We don't know. The RJ or the helicopter crew apparently acknowledges that they see the RJ. So those are things that we're going to have to look at, and the investigators are going to look at in depth.
And John, Willie asked you if it was unusual for a helicopter to pass under the flight path of a commercial jet on its final approach, and you said it does happen, but at 300 feet, at 400 feet, that's what seems so unusual to me that they wouldn't go, half a mile further up the Potomac before cutting across.
The jet is on a descent profile. There is an instrument approach to that runway, and if you watch, the jet is on a routine descent profile.
Right.
As to the altitude and the exact flight path of the helicopter, that's a little less certain at this point. So we're going to have to wait and see where the helicopter was and its altitude. They have a limited altitude, which I believe is 200 feet to come down the river. But were they at that altitude? And that's things that the investigators are going to look at. But it is not uncommon to see a military helicopter below you as you approach that runway.
So I'm wondering, sir, and again, I'm just reviewing for our viewers who are just waking up this morning, Flight 5342, passenger jet coming into Reagan National Airport from Wichita, Kansas, collided midair with an Army helicopter, plummeting into the Potomac River. The crash at DCA at 9 p.m. last night, happening at one of the most tightly monitored and busiest airspaces. And John, I'd love to ask you just about congestion in the area, and if you know or have gathered any information about that increasing of late.
Washington Reagan National has always been a congested airport. There's a lot of airplanes that move in and out of a small geographic place. It is a place where professional pilots operate in and out of there. Most of us know the routine, and you expect certain things in and out of Reagan National. And it works. It works very well. The air traffic controllers are some of the best in the world. So exactly what happened here, we don't yet know. And the helicopter crew, they're also specially qualified to fly this particular route. So you have very highly qualified pilots. You have very highly qualified air traffic controllers. Now the question is, what occurred last night that led to this tragedy?
David Ignatius.
So just to speak to the question of the increasing congestion at National Airport, which every traveler who goes through there sees, one reason for it is that members of Congress like this airport very close to where they live and work and keep demanding more slots to go to more different places around the country where their home districts are. It's been a long-running problem for Reagan National to be able to accommodate congressional demand for flights. They don't want to go all the way out to Dulles, which is about twice as far. They want to go to this airport. It's not to say it has anything to do with this crash, but it's part of why the airport is so crowded.
And so congested.
Reagan National has always been a challenge geographically because it's so constrained by the river, and it is close into the city. There is increased demand, not only by Congress, but by passengers. People like this runway. I mean, I've flown in and out of there countless times, both as a pilot and as a passenger. the convenience factor is great, and they do a good job managing the traffic. So they have been able to expand to now where there are nonstop flights to the West Coast, and the demand has been there. So part of this is the airport responding to the commercial demands that the passengers have made, and that it makes perfect sense.
And John, obviously this airport deals with more military traffic, aircraft traffic than most. My question to you, a technical one, are there two different communication systems here? Does the civilian air traffic control operate differently than what the military helicopters would be listening to? We know that it seems that the air traffic controller did communicate with that helicopter, but are there communication issues? Talk to us about, are there different levels? Are there moments of confusion possible?
The jet, the regional jet and the American flight is operating on a VHF radio, very high frequency radio. The military is very likely using a UHF or ultra high frequency. So the pilots, both pilots can hear what the air traffic controller says, but they may not be able to hear what each other says. So, and this is a routine concern when you have civilian and military aircraft operating in the same airspace. So the military uses UHF radios, and the civilian world uses VHF.